The energies of this upcoming full moon in Capricorn are going to be felt all the way through January of 2025. In this video, I'm going to explain to you why that is, what these energies are, and how it is that we can best work with or utilize this full moon in order to maximize the benefits. This full moon is occurring at 29 degrees of Capricorn, and it is part of a lunar cycle that actually began back in June of this year. June 21st, we had a full moon in Capricorn at 1 degree of Capricorn. And then we had a beautiful new moon in Cancer conjunct the star Sirius. And now we are finishing out this lunar cycle with another full moon in Capricorn at 29 degrees. So we went from the very beginning of Capricorn to the very end of Capricorn. And this has been a powerful journey. Like I said at the beginning of this video, this journey is not going to end here. This full moon at 29 degrees of Capricorn is happening conjunct Pluto at 0 degrees of Aquarius. So this is an out of sign conjunction, but that really doesn't matter in this case. The energies are so intense, and Pluto is actually currently in a retrograde. So Pluto will be retrograding back to 29 degrees of Capricorn and all the way back to 27 degrees of Capricorn, which Pluto will hit on the 1010 portal, which is, for those who are not familiar with the portals yet, in the month of October. Pluto will continue on moving direct once again and hit 0 degrees of Aquarius once more in January of 2025, moving through and past that 29 degree of Capricorn point on his way back to 0 degrees of Aquarius. In this video, we're going to be talking about the energies of Pluto quite extensively because Pluto is playing a key role in the energies of this full moon. Pluto and the moon are coming together. They are melding their energies. And then Pluto is taking that energy and carrying it forward and utilizing the energy of this full moon to help us to complete the karmic cycles and lessons that we began working with back in 2008. And when I say we began working with, what I mean by that is that they came more clearly into our awareness. We could not ignore them any longer. These are energies that we've been working with, not only in this lifetime, but in past lifetimes as well. The moon represents our emotional conditioning in this lifetime. And Pluto represents our emotional conditioning throughout many, many lifetimes. And also throughout the collective. So we're working with generational energy here and collective energies as well as personal energies. During this full moon and as Pluto continues his movement through the completion of Capricorn and back into Aquarius again, we're going to want to pay attention to the themes that are coming up, especially the themes that we've been noticing throughout our lifetime, throughout our family lineage, and that have come into a greater focus for us since 2008. 2008 is when Pluto first entered the sign of Capricorn. So this is a 16-year cycle that we have been working with here, refining the areas where we find Capricorn in our natal charts. Like we said, the moon is bringing through this powerful clearing. And the way that we can imagine it is that Capricorn's been working with us in these Capricorn areas of our lives since 2008. And now the moon is coming along. And the moon is bringing through a deeper understanding and really crystallizing and tying together everything that we've been learning, all of the ancestral healing that we've been doing, all of the personal healing, by connecting the dots for us and showing us where it is that our current programming and emotional conditioning connects with our past and with the emotional conditioning of our lineage. So we're going to begin to notice or be able to feel into these energies of like, oh, this pattern here. I saw my mother acting out the same exact pattern. And we may not know the story of our great-grandmother and further, or we might, but we may just be able to feel into it and feel and sense that that pattern goes back and it goes deeper. And if we really sit with ourselves around the time of this full moon, there may be impressions, emotions, images, words, knowings, understandings that come through that help us to trace this energy back to the original core wound, where this pattern first came from, where it was created. And we can use this moon to send healing to that aspect. And this is beautiful. As I'm saying this and sharing this with you, I'm seeing how the star Sirius and that new moon in Cancer connects in with all of this. We can still connect to that beautiful energy of Sirius and the Sirian gateway, because the Sirian gateway really opens up the energy that moves us through the Lion's Gate portal, which is occurring on August 8th. So we're in the middle of these energies right now, and still within the lunar cycle of that new moon conjunct Sirius. So we're really able to, Sirius wants to bring through, allow us to channel through the healing energy to these wounded parts of ourselves and our lineage so that we can clear and heal these wounds once and for all. These energies, as Pluto's been working and moving through the sign of Capricorn, have to do with authority. So a big question that we are being asked during this full moon and during the remainder of Pluto's transit through the sign of Capricorn, the question we're being asked is, who is the ultimate authority in our lives? Is it us? Perhaps our higher self? Or is it an outside force, an outside entity? When did we hand our power over to that entity? And why? And are we ready, most importantly, to take it back? And Pluto, as it's moved through the sign of Capricorn since 2008, has really shown us the consequences when we give our power away. We can look at governments as an example of this. I live in the United States, so I use the United States as an example quite a bit because I have firsthand experience of what it feels like to live under a system of authority that does not function for the will and the highest good of the people. And yet Americans have been complacent for a really long time because their lives were comfortable enough. It was easy enough. And it is much easier to give our power away to somebody else and say, you make the choices, you make the decisions, you know what's best, than it is to take on that energy and take responsibility for that energy ourselves, right? Where have we done this? Have we done this in relationships? Have we done this with our parents? Who and what have we given authority to because they knew better, or because it was easier, or because we didn't have the confidence in ourselves? This full moon is all about taking that power back, becoming that authority, as Pluto has been teaching us how to do in earnest since 2008, as well really as Chiron in Aries, who is very active during this full moon as well. This full moon is actually a T-square with Chiron squaring both the sun and the moon. So we see this energy reflected in a myriad of ways. We have supporting energy coming through during this full moon from both Neptune at 29 degrees of Pisces and Mars having just entered the sign of Gemini at 0 degrees of Gemini, fresh out of his conjunction with Uranus and with the star Algol. And if you guys haven't seen that video, I will link it at the end of this one. Please check it out. That was such a powerful conjunction. And we're going to be feeling that energy for the next 2 years. Everything, it's all about stepping into authority, taking ownership of our energy. Saturn, the ruler of this moon, is retrograde in the sign of Pisces right now, in a square to Jupiter in Gemini. And Saturn retrograde is all about this energy as well. Taking responsibility for our creations, for our world, for our actions. Saturn really wants, and Pluto, both really want us to look at this, to take a really good look and say, what is the world that I want to live in? And are my actions and my choices aligning myself with that world and the fruition of that world, or aligning me with the energies of the past? And if we are still living in an energy that we do not want, are we ready to take responsibility for our choices and our actions and our decisions and align ourselves with the world that we are wanting to create? Right? There's an energy of integrity here. And this is only emphasized by the fact that the empty space within the T-square between Chiron, the sun, and the moon and Pluto, as Pluto is conjunct the moon, is Libra. That is the energy of balance. That is the energy of fairness and integrity. So that Libra energy is asking us to walk our talk. It's saying that it is time for our words and our actions to match. How many people do you know, going back to the example of politics, right, and government, how many people do you know that complain endlessly about politics? But they've never once tried to get involved. Many of them don't even vote. And honestly, like, the voting system is rigged. Many of us know this at this point. So it's understandable why some people wouldn't vote, but like, what other actions could we take? And I've been guilty of this myself, right? I still am to a certain extent of not taking the actions, not having the follow through. And so we can apply this to any area of our lives, wherever it is that we are not satisfied with our lives. Are we just sitting and complaining about it, or are we doing something about it? This action wants to empower us to take action, or this energy rather, wants to empower us to take action. And as Pluto, it's perfect, right? That Pluto is actually at 0 degrees of Aquarius during the full moon, and then retrogrades back to that 29 degree point where the moon is during the full moon and beyond, and then returns to 0 degrees of Aquarius. Because Aquarius is that energy that represents the 11th house. So this is the energy that we are moving into, that we are now going to be in the process of fine-tuning and transforming. This has to do with those Uranian energies, the idealism, the world that we want to create, the paradise that we want to create, the groups and organizations and networks, the people that we come together with to make this vision a reality, as well as a whole different sense of inner authority through authenticity. All right, so it's just so beautiful how this is all playing out, and the opportunities that we have to really begin being that change that we want to see in the world are infinite. But we have to start by going into the shadow, by becoming aware of these themes, of these patterns, by allowing this full moon to show us what it is that we most need to see and understand about the ways, because a lot of this conditioning, it runs so deep that we don't even recognize that it exists. Even those of us who are very familiar with the term shadow work, who understand the unconscious mind and the way belief systems work and how they create our reality, right? Because our reality is a projection of our internal belief systems. Our perspective, the way we see the world, right, is the way that the world is. So even when we're aware of that stuff, there are still belief systems and programming in there. It's kind of like we build this new idealized version of ourselves, right? And then if there's still things within us that don't match that, I feel like sometimes we want to ignore those things because it feels almost like it's the way the ego kind of eases into the conversation, right? It's an affront to our ego that we still have certain conditionings and patternings that, like, critically, on a mental, conscious level, we don't identify with anymore. But until we can acknowledge the wounding, particularly, that created these belief systems, we're not going to be able to clear them. So it's humbling ourselves enough to be like, okay, I still have that. That belief system still exists within me somewhere. That still exists within my lineage. You know what I mean? We can hold dual belief systems. And a dual belief system, and this is where a lot of people who've been doing the work, doing the healing work, this is where a lot of us are at right now. We have the old belief that hasn't been fully released yet. And we also have the new belief that we're working on incorporating. And they exist simultaneously. And so this is a powerful opportunity for many of us to drop the old beliefs, to really once and for all wash our hands of them. But it starts by, like we said, first acknowledging that they're there and accepting that they're there, being like, it's okay. And for some of us, this has to do with forgiving ourselves for taking on these beliefs, forgiving our lineage, and even like forgiving the inverted matrix itself it's almost like sometimes we fall into this energy of playing the victim to that. Remember, we chose to come here. At one point or another, we chose. All right. And those of us who identify with the label 144,000 or the waves of volunteers, starseeds, light workers, we really chose. Some people chose a long time ago and they've just been stuck in these karmic loops and they've been manipulated into making choices that weren't really choices anymore, right? That's what this has devolved into. But at one point they chose too, and we absolutely chose. Those of us who came here because we heard that call, like we talked about in the 3 Waves of Volunteers video, we knew what we were getting ourselves into. All right, but there can still be resentment about that, frustration about that. And that's okay, but we have to accept that that's there too and release and heal that as well. There's also this energy of getting more information that I was feeling. And this has to do with Saturn in Pisces, retrograde, squaring Jupiter and Gemini. It's like there's more to know than what we currently have within our awareness. And I feel like we're going to be receiving more of that information if we are open to it. But we have to be open-minded enough to receive it. This is where the ego comes in once more. If the ego wants to feel like it knows it all and it doesn't need any information, or we are falling victim to that energy that a lot of us point the finger at other people, cognitive dissonance, right? Which is where we immediately dismiss information that doesn't agree with our current narrative, right? Many of us are still, I don't want to say guilty of this because that makes it, there's like a judgment quality to the word guilty, right? But many of us still fall victim to this energy of cognitive dissonance. And so Saturn's saying, where does that still exist within you? Can we shift that energy? Can you be open to new information? And not do anything with it right away. Just let the information filter through. This is not only do we have this 29 degree of Capricorn energy going out, which of course puts the sun at 29 degrees of Cancer. All right, so there's a powerful anaretic energy there as well. But we have Neptune at 29 degrees of Pisces, and this is a major cycle as well that has been many, many, many years in the making that we are completing. With Neptune in Pisces, working through these energies of victimhood, these energies of powerlessness, this energy of seeking the knowledge and the wisdom out there. That's the lower vibration of the conditioning that we've had around spiritual energy. We're moving into that higher vibration where Neptune in Pisces reminds us that everything we need to know is actually within, right? So there's a lot of learning to trust ourselves, learning to ground into our own energy, because that's a whole nother level of giving away our authority, right? Giving away our sovereignty and our power. When we're constantly looking to others for truth, for confirmation, for the knowledge that already exists in here, right? I share a lot of the wisdom and the knowledge and the downloads that I receive on this channel. But ultimately the goal is to help activate you to a point where you reconnect with the guru, with the oracle within yourself. All right. I see people come and go from this channel all the time. They come when they've gotten enough. And some people just stick around, even though they're totally tapped into that aspect of themselves, because this is a beautiful tribe that we've built here. And I love, love, love that. Sometimes people connect with that aspect of themselves. This happens with my clients as well, and it's beautiful. It's wonderful when they get to the point where they don't need me anymore, because that means that I've done my job. I've achieved part of my spiritual mission, which is to reconnect you to you. And as I'm doing that, as I'm working on assisting people with that, I'm continuing to do that for myself, right? We teach that which we most need to learn. Ooh, so that's another aspect of this energy. This full moon is asking us not just to look at the themes that keep repeating that are frustrating us. What are the themes? What are the ways that you're constantly being of assistance to other people? What are the things that you're constantly teaching others around you? Because remember, we're all students and all teachers, right? Because those are lessons that you may need to learn as well. So that's another aspect of walking our talk. Spirit keeps bringing me back to the 22 degrees of Capricorn energy as well. So this was back in January 2020. when Saturn and Pluto were both conjunct at 29 degrees of Capricorn, or 22 degrees of Capricorn rather. And we see a lot of the events that happened after that, with the pandemic, with the lockdown, with all of the craziness that ensued. So there's a significance there as well. Look to that area of 22 degrees of Capricorn in your natal chart, and that will give you a clue as to some of these energies as well, that you've been wrapping up these lessons, these cycles. And this energy isn't necessarily over. Like for those who, like myself, I have a house beginning at 22 degrees of Capricorn, actually. So that conjunction happened on an angle in my chart. That was fun. But then I also have Aquarius in the same house, right? So Pluto's not going to be done with that house when Pluto moves into Aquarius. I'm still going to be learning in that area, and many of you, others of you will as well. But there's a certain aspect of that lesson that has completed, and a new aspect that is going to continue as Pluto moves through the sign of Aquarius. So Pluto is carrying through these themes of the moon, utilizing this energy to continue to unravel within us, this energy that is needing to be unraveled, to help us finalize and complete these lessons. And we're going to be having a powerful aspect that we're going to get into more as we move closer into the fall time, between Uranus at 29 degrees of Taurus, Neptune at 29 degrees of Pisces, and Pluto back at that 29 degree of Capricorn point. These three collective planets are going to be forming a harmonious aspect together and really supporting us in the final closing, tying up those last few loose ends, tying up the loose ends. All right. So there's a powerful completion energy that we're moving into, and this is a preamble for that. And this energy, like we said, will continue into January. So just pay attention. There's a lot that is wrapping up for all of us right now, both individually and as a collective. Allow this full moon to bring that into your awareness. Allow yourself to be vulnerable. Allow yourself to be open from the messages to the messages and downloads of your soul. Notice these themes where they're coming up. This is the Cancer Capricorn axis, right? So this is all about maturity. I call this the axis of maturity when we're working with these energies. This is where we learn to reparent ourselves. This is where we learn the balance of responsibility and nurturing. How it is that we can be gentle and loving to ourselves, but also hold ourselves to a standard and apply a structure to our lives that allows us to be successful. Right? This is both the father and the mother. Learning how to be these energies for ourselves and learning and understanding where it is that we are perhaps wounded within these energies as a result of our own relationship to our mother and father, or as how this energy, like we've been saying, has trickled down our ancestral line. Healing that relationship within us, healing the relationship to our own divine masculine and feminine energies as well, and learning how to bring that into balance. Once again, calling upon that counterpoint from the T-square with Chiron of that Libra energy. Where is it that you are being asked to take a greater role in your own destiny? Are you ready to manifest that destiny? Because Pluto wants to help, the moon wants to help. But you have to be willing to walk through your fears. Around this full moon, and really as we move through January, we're going to be getting pretty uncomfortable. Is it uncomfortable enough? That's what we're being asked on an individual level and on a collective level. Is giving away our authority, our sovereignty, comfortable enough still? Or have we reached that threshold where it is so uncomfortable that we're ready to make a change? And if so, all infinite possibilities, all doorways are open for us and available to us. All timelines are accessible from that point of surrender, from that point of, okay, enough is enough. And when I say surrender, what I mean is surrendering to ourselves, surrendering to our higher selves, surrendering to facing the demons, looking them dead in the eye. And when we look our demons, our fears, our insecurities, our wounds dead in the eye, they're not so scary anymore. It's the anticipation, it's the fear of the thing that makes us more afraid, right? Most afraid. What is fear? False expectations appearing real. What are those false expectations? Those false expectations are those programmed belief systems. Those faulty belief systems that create a faulty experience of reality. And that experience is faulty because it doesn't reflect the truth of who we are. If we were to have an authentic experience of reality, we would see an authentic reflection of the truth and the beauty and the power of who we are. And that is what this full moon in Capricorn is inviting us to connect with. I love you. I honor you. I respect you infinitely. Thank you for being here with me today. If you want to catch more videos like this, click the bell with the little squigglies, subscribe right now. If you haven't liked this video yet, please go ahead and do so. And let me know how you're feeling these energies. Let me know what themes are coming up for you. Let me know the ways that you plan to work with this full moon in Capricorn. I want to hear all about it. I'll talk to you soon.